Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well in terms of life and anything currently unrelated to football at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And we are here bringing you therapy to Tottenham Hotspur's North London derby defeat against Arsenal in the Premier League. I'm joined by the wonderful Richard Cracknell, the superb Darren Hartman, and the brilliant Matty Hayes. We're going to try and guide you through and offer some form of an explanation as to what we've witnessed in relation to Tottenham Hotspur. Cracks, let's start with you. Look, it's, how do I put this? Spurs producing their customary second half rally against Arsenal, I would say, in this game, but it's simply too little too late. You know, a meet opening 45 minutes from Tottenham, and we're playing against an Arsenal side that are now 8 points clear. They've really been transformed, we've been honest, since the start of May. And Spurs, quite honestly, backwards. For me, a totally unacceptable performance. And whilst a lot of the spotlight is rightly so on the board right now, and in terms of their lack of action in January, I do think also today the scrutiny should be on Antonio Conte, because if I'm going to be honest with you, we can argue that he hasn't got the players to his disposal, but the current group of players that he has got at the moment, just simply, we're not getting the most out of, in my opinion. You know, tactically inept, some would call it. And our captain, as we've seen many, many times, letting us down again. The first goal, an utter capitulation, which unfortunately sets the mood for yet another dismal performance, Cracks.
Yeah, well, I think we're beginning to see that our problems might run a little bit deeper than Emerson not being good enough, doesn't it, at the moment, really? I mean, there's your man that's normally in the barrel. But, Rick, it was a shit show. Sorry to swear again, but I'll keep them limited this week. It was just poor. It was abject. And, you know, it just seems to be such a dysfunctionality with Tottenham at the moment, right across the board, with the exception of the fans. Yet again, you know, the fans, they stuck with the team. They got behind the team. All right, there was a bit of silliness at the end, but that's born out of frustration, and every club has them. But, you know, the fans generally, when it gets to the game, they're there, they're behind them, they're home and away. But everything else beyond that, and like I said in the last show, so much that the club gets right with things, but the actual football side of it at the moment, wow, Rick, it's just off the scale, just disjointed, rubbish, no plan. It's, you know, the board have to take a look at themselves and do something different, or get out of town, one of the two, because what they're currently doing and been doing for a long while isn't working. And it's just a mishmash of jump from one plan to another. Conte as well. Like, what's going on there? An elite manager, and he is, but within that, I mean, he's ended up at a club where, you know, he's not got everything handed to him on a plate. And as I said, you know, that's a different subject of maybe he should get a little bit more on his plate. He absolutely should, but he hasn't. So find another way with what you've currently got. And within that, what we've currently got isn't good enough either. There's players there from Poch. There's players there from Jose. There's players there from Nuno. It's a mess, Rick. It's an absolute mess. And it just looks like there's a board that won't back a manager because he won't commit, and a manager that won't commit because the board are not backing him. And it's like this political game that seems to be being played out at Spurs on the pitch in front of everybody, giving 60, 70, 80 quid to come along every week. It's a real mess. Someone's got to get hold of this club and go, right, what direction are we going in? Are we going with Conte? Yes, we're going with Conte. Right. He's going to need this. And you've got to give him it. You've got to give him that money. If they're not prepared to hand that money over, then go, okay, so if that's not the sort of money that we're prepared to commit, because that's the sort of money Conte does, where do we go? We go with more project manager, somebody, do you know what I mean? It's like, cut your cloth accordingly. But please have a plan, Enoch and Tottenham, and just stick to it, because we got beaten today fairly and squarely by a team that's done exactly that. Exactly that. That, 3-4 seasons ago, Ozil, not good enough, out the door. You're just like, you're stealing a wage here. Then they done it with Lacazette. Then they done it with Aubameyang. And they took some huge hits on them, and they brought some players in that wasn't quite ready to rock and roll and go, but they stuck with it. Last season, when we picked them, they were on the deck, but they had this plan. They knew that this season it would come together a little bit. Now look where they are. Now look where we are. So everybody's got to be putting in to the club in a certain way. The manager needs to be doing this, and the board needs to be doing this. All these wheels need to be running, concurrently and in line and smoothly. But at the moment, it's a shambolic mess, Rick. It is an absolute mess. And today just shows you that. Absolutely shows you it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, I can't disagree with what you're saying there, Cracks. And I feel like on this show again, I've got to be honest and say the defeats are always very, very difficult to do on Last Word on Spurs, because I always say this, that, we're not looking to blame one person. We are happy to apportionate that blame accordingly. There's got to be blame for Conte. There's got to be blame for the board. There's got to be blame for the fact that we're 15 and a half days for a transfer window, 16 when you're listening to this on Monday morning, and Spurs still haven't acted yet. In a window where you can see Spurs clearly do need to act and give Conte the tools that he needs, if you do feel he's the right man for the job, which ultimately that is a massive question up for debate right now. Del, you are, as you know, a regular Last One on Spurs. You're one of the most positive Spurs fans I know. You're always vibrant. And I know tonight's going to be a tricky one for you to try and have to sum up any positives from that. But the argument is that Spurs much better in that second half, but they had to be, because that comeback was never going to happen, in my personal opinion. It's a game which perfectly highlighted Arsenal's vast improvement, not just in terms of players, in terms of how the manager's grown, but in terms of a club, how they've actually transformed that club and built into a plan, an identity, a philosophy. And at Spurs, I just can't see a real sense of direction, of any term of structure that we're looking to build right now. And, that was a vast improvement. Of course, it was from their 3-0 here last May. But Spurs have gone ultimately backwards. And there's so many reasons for it, Dal, which, there's so much time we could get into as to why. And I'm sure you're going to give us an element of how you're feeling right now.
You know what, Rick? What you've just said, what Crackers has said, and I know when Matty gets involved, we're all going to be singing off very much the same song sheet. And I think that's what we do here at Last Word on Spurs, is we give it to you honestly. I am positive. I do try and find a positive. Like, my angle on who's to blame, my thing is, where are we going to fix it? Like, where is it going to be fixed? Rather than looking for blame, let's look at fixing it, because all the problems are very clear for everyone to see. And I think today was a real reality check for anyone who's lived in a bubble. Today was a burst of a bubble. And I'm going to break it down for anyone who hasn't fully had their bubble burst. I'm going to do it for you. End of last season, we were flying. Confidence. We were buzzing. We finished above Arsenal. We were in Europe. We had Conte. The world was our oyster. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's make it happen. We look at the reality of this season, with Man City being away reform, with Liverpool being away reform. Chelsea don't know who they are. Suddenly, the league became open. It's like the Leicester year. It's that season happening right now. And you look at the team who has taken control of it. It's a team that had a plan. Arsenal had a plan. They looked at Conte, looked at the managers they wanted. They got Arteta, and they built a plan with him. As much as Arsenal fans have to ride a horrible wave, there was a plan. Cracks, you've just opened that door. He didn't want Ozil. He didn't want X, Y, and Z. They backed him. There was a plan from board, manager, and system on the pitch. And that's what we're also got to remember. We've said board, we've said manager, we have to talk players as well. Everyone has a role to play in this. Everyone has their part to play. And today was a real bubble burst to go, we are falling away and it's our fault. We have to look at us as a family, as a unit, as a whole entity and go, what are we doing? What do we want to achieve? What is the song sheet that the chairman, the manager, and the players are singing from? Because I don't think they know. I don't think that 11 goes out on the pitch and they know. I think Conte at halftime doesn't know. I feel that the board doesn't know. And the reason why I say that is because we're now in the transfer window and all we're hearing is, we're linked, we're linked, we're linked. If you know who you want, you buy them. Look at Chelsea. Look at everybody else. Look at Man United. You want a player, you go and get them because you know what you need. Right now, we as fans see it. We go, we know what we need, but it's not being bought. What's the reason? We need to understand it. And I think that's the most frustrating point of today is because, again, as fans, we have to go to work. We have to go out on the street. I've got to go back to a function full of Arsenal fans. And we've got to take that on our shoulders and go, we've got to take the lashings. And we're taking it, but we don't know what the vision is. I've never been so confused about what my team, what our beloved Spurs is trying to do right now. I'm very lost. And I think the players look lost. Conte is a world-class manager. He looks lost. I think at the board level, they're lost. And I think unless we can get a full understanding of what the vision is going forward, this season is going to be an embarrassment for us because the wheels are falling off. As Crackers said, if they're not all in motion together, they're going to clog, they're going to hit each other, and it's all going to go pear-shaped. Sparks will fly, it will fall off. This is a season where we didn't need to do this to ourselves. It's self-inflicted again. And I think right now, January is still here. We've still got time. And I think if anything could make people sit down, today's the day. Today's the day that Monday morning, no one's on break. Everyone's sitting together. Everyone's having open communication. A board member, a manager, all the first 11. Let's talk. Let's work out what we're doing because clearly it's not working as a system. Everyone's got their gripes. Talk it out, fix it. Because if we don't, gentlemen, we're gonna have to watch. I'm gonna say, and if people want to go from in and chat, go for it. If we don't improve, we're gonna have the season that we've all dreaded: Arsenal winning the league and us looking embarrassing, because it's on the cards. Not through like them being so wonderful and us being so bad. They had a plan and we don't right now, and that's what he's telling. So, peeps, if we want to make a plan, I know people are saying board out, manager out. My thing is sort it out. Rather than say out, because if we get Conte out, who are we getting? If we get the board out, who's taking control? We don't know what vision they've got. So rather than say get them out, sort it out. That's what I'm about.
No, Darren, listen, appreciate those thoughts, and lots of people agree in agreement with you, what you're saying here. Matt, coming over to you. Look, I think me and you have been both the same, that we've been massive Conte fans, and naturally this is a serial winner that's won 5 titles in his last 8 seasons. A man that wherever he goes, he wins. He has shown a flexibility before. We've seen it at Chelsea where if something isn't working, he does change it. I think, again, I will be honest today and say it's not just one thing, as we said. There's a multitude of factors here. We have got a ball that arguably can do much better. I also think we've got a manager that can do much better as well with this group of players. When I see Spurs setting up in a North London derby at home to Arsenal, and I feel like we look like the away side, and even to a degree where Arsenal have got another couple of players on the field. You know, my worry is that first half could have been really, really worse than what it was, being brutally honest with you. You know, and Eric Dyer comes out and says that Spurs didn't actually start poorly. Well, we looked nervous. We looked timid. Where is that bravery we showed last season in that 3-0 win when we came out and we know we had to win? That wasn't there today. Bearing in mind, we saw a half an hour before Newcastle go and get a last-minute winner to once again propel themselves in a position where adding more points to their total above Tottenham. It's just, for me at the moment, Matt, look, no plan, no directions, no certainty with anything right now in the club. The ownership, the manager, you know, 2 cup competitions is the best we can hope for. And one of them, being honest with you, in terms of the Champions League, we know how hard that is to win. But it's yet another home defeat, a double defeat in the North London derby. And we are now heading down from the 4th position that we probably are, rightly so, in the league. So, Matt, can you try and sum up, if you can, what we've just had to witness on the back of that performance and result?
Oh, God, to be honest, I think Crackers and Darren and yourself, Ricky, have hit every point that needs to be acknowledged. I rewatched the first 50 minutes of the victory against Arsenal back in May. I rewatched that this morning, just get myself a bit pumped up, you know, get in the mood for a derby day. And if you'd put someone in front of a TV and showed them the first 45 minutes from May and the first 45 minutes from today, and you told them that was the same team, that was the same manager, that was that was most of the way the same players, they wouldn't have believed you. They would have thought you were crazy. It was chalk and cheese. And I personally don't think there's one person or one party that this blame can be put on. I think Conte, with the way things seem to be going, again, like you, Ricky, I'm a massive fan of him. Could have been one of the best things that ever happened to this football club. He knows how to win. He knows how to get a tune out of players that other managers might not be able to. But when we don't have a vision and we don't have a direction from board level down into the team the whole way through, there's nothing that any manager can do. Conte is, for me right now, maybe not the answer, but it's not his fault. The best way I can describe it is you can put Conte into any other team, he will win trophies. You can put some of the players that we have into any other team, they will win trophies. You put this board in charge of other clubs, you have a different, they won't win trophies. So we like, I'm trying to be careful what I say now, because I know no matter what way I go, someone's going to be unhappy with it. But what this club is doing right now is going to fail. Whatever level you want to look at, the way that everything is going right now, it's going to fail. Something has to change. And I think Conte got it wrong today. I think going with a two-man midfield was a bad decision. And people have been saying that maybe Skip isn't good enough to play in that team, but he's a body in the midfield. We effectively had 2 against 4, because the way Zinchenko steps inside, it was effectively 2 against 4. That was a massive advantage for Arsenal and allowed them to control the game for much of that first half. I think changes needed to be made earlier in that game. Bryan Hill isn't the answer to any issue that we're going to have, but bringing on fresh players, bringing on fresh legs, and something to actually run at Arsenal in the shape of Bryan Hill a bit earlier would have been more helpful. He's not going to be able to do anything when he comes on with 3 minutes to go in the game. And just devoid of a plan B, I think is the best way we could describe what Conte had today. But in the same breath, I don't think he has the right tools to actually go on and be successful at this football club. I know there's reports during the week that he's not going to leave until he wins a trophy. That could be a very, very long time. We're coming for me to the end of a cycle. Lloris, absolutely adore the man. It has been an honour and a privilege and a pleasure to see that man with the armband throughout his decade at Tottenham. He has to be replaced. Too many mistakes. 4 errors leading to goals in the league this season, more than any other player. That first goal today, if he stood there and let the ball hit him, he saves it. I don't know what he was doing. He needs to go. That defence needs to be revitalised. Eric Dyer, splits opinion. He's had good spells. He's had bad spells. It's just not happening. That midfield, as much as we like to praise some of the players in there, I'm not sure that's strong enough to actually go on and win trophies. Everywhere really, apart from our front 3, I think are problems that need to be addressed straight away. But how long is it going to take to fix all of those problems? Because again, it's not one. There are so many problems all over the place. It's going to take a lot of time to do that. And for me, it needs to be a new cycle. We need an injection of something, anything new in this football club to actually try and get on a sense of direction and a sense of where we can actually go. Because let's not kid ourselves. This is a huge football club. We are an absolutely massive football club. That performance that we saw today, that performance that we saw against Aston Villa, every first half performance we've seen for the last 4 months, that is not what we're about.
No,
that is not what this team can do and what this club can achieve. We are better than that. And look, we showed it at the end of last season. The way we were playing at the end of last year, we were unbelievable. We were washing teams off the pitch. Arsenal looked absolutely nothing against us. How has so much changed in 6 months? I don't know, but something needs to happen and something needs to be done about what is going on here. The best phrase, it's round pegs into square holes, or other way, whatever it is. Something. You're
right, man. And we're smashing these pegs into, I would say, like you say, the round holes where they simply just do not fit. They simply do not fit. And I agree with lots of what you're saying there. Patrick on the screen says, Rick and the boys, that was such an effing awful performance. I did my 2022 performance review for my employer, which was tedious, frustrating, and irritating, just like Spurs. Love you guys. Patrick in the US. Patrick, thank you so much. Antonio Conte has been out in his post-match press conference. Cracks, if I can come around to you. So Conte's been speaking in relation to what we've just had to witness. And he said, I'm not disappointed because we knew that the game could be really difficult, but Arsenal was a really strong team and also showed that they deserve to stay top of the league as title contenders. He went on to say, in my opinion, Arsenal and City are the only teams that can fight for this title this season. At the same time, we are disappointed. We started well, but then we conceded a goal. And after this, we created an important chance with Sonny. And then the keeper made a fantastic save. And then we conceded another goal. After the 2-0, I think a bad result could kill everybody. But I've seen a good reaction from my team. We created the chances to score and we didn't lose our head. The risk to lose your head and concede other goals. Now we have to move on and play a difficult game against City, the other title challenger. Today was good to see again Kulusevski. I was taking a bit of a risk with him, only 3 days in training with the team, and see Richarlison back on the bench. Bentancur is so close. Lucas Moura is the only critical situation. We exploit this situation to give a chance to players like Sarr, Hill and Skip. Also for Tanganga, because this was important to play during this period. I've got to be honest with you, Rich. Look, you've backed Conte massively throughout his tenure here, and you still back him. And again, for me personally, I'll say this on record. I don't think Spurs could get another elite manager of his nature based on his CV and what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest worry is, and this is my biggest worry now, that it's hard to come away from thinking anything else at the moment, is that I just feel the way Spurs are built right now is not for him. And that kills me to say that, because I think Conte is one of the best managers in the world. He has got a track-proven record wherever he's been. But I don't feel we are going to give Conte what he needs in order to be successful at this football club. Can you? I mean, before we do get on to that, I mean, he's called that a good performance today. He feels that in areas that was decent. Do you agree with those comments, firstly, Cracks, before you come on to that second point?
Well, there was no lack of will there from those players, but those players just wasn't good enough, Rick. That's the simple truth. That's part C of the A to Z of problems, is that some of those players there just aren't good enough. And that includes Lloris, who has been a fantastic servant to the club. But guess what? He's finished, Rick. And football, as I've said to you before, is a horrid, cruel game. And he's got to an age now whereby he makes those mistakes for the first goal and he doesn't get a hand to that shot from 30 odd yards for the second goal. And then you're 2-0 done. And a team as good as Arsenal are now, it's don't be too clouded in your judgment of what's gone on today because it's Arsenal. Take away that it's actually them and just look upon them as that team. It's but they're just a team that's better than us at the moment. But we've killed ourselves in that, and he's just not good enough. So, I mean, Conte, I think now really has to look at it and go, sorry, not good enough. I'm going to have to find somebody like play Forster. And he's going to have to start making some big, hard, horrible decisions. Ten Hag's gone in at Man U. Sorry, Ronaldo, you're just not good enough now. You're not where I want to go. And he's got rid of him. And there was an absolute storm over it. But do you know what? What's happened to Man U since he went? That all of a sudden they just look a better team because they've got him out the door. So Conte's got some real tough decisions to make. But let's not forget, Conte put Sessegnon up against Saka. And Saka had him on toast today. Absolutely had him on toast.
I can only think, Cracks, on that very quickly. I can only think that surely that must be a fitness issue with Perisic, because you don't surely play Sessegnon up against Saka, which I know obviously pace-wise you'd argue, but Perisic has an understanding of the game so much more formidable on that pitch than Sessegnon. And that's what worries me. You mentioned one thing there, Cracks, that again, there are now becoming a number of questionable decisions of what Conte is making, game by game, match by match. And do you still feel in your approach, Cracks, do you still feel, I have to ask you this, and again, we've all acknowledged he's a world-class manager, that he's won 5 titles in his last 8 seasons. Do you still feel right now, Cracks, he is the right man for the football club to lead us forward?
Oh, sadly not now, Rick. I really honestly do. I think he's the right man at the wrong club. Right. I think it's if that makes sense. And I just feel that if we had a board that invested for the next 5 or 6 windows in some quality players, which they can afford but don't seem to be doing, then Conte comes in, then you're getting somewhere. But I just think he's running whilst the club's still learning to walk. Really, he just doesn't seem a right fit for Tottenham, does he? Because we're not going to change the way we do things anytime soon. It doesn't seem to me. We've had 20 years of the board operating the club in this way. I can't see much changing, to be honest. I can't see them going out and getting those 2 or 3 players this window and just, this Porro issue that we've got at the moment, 45 million euro release fee, just pay it. Chelsea have gone and just dropped 100 million and nicked one off of Arsenal because they've just paid it. So, but this board won't just go and pay it and go and bring in that little bit of extra quality. So, Conte's stubbornly sticking to what he's doing when he could really be changing things up a bit, and the clubs and the board's just not backing him. So it's a mess. He's just not the right man at the moment. He really isn't. And I feel sorry for him in that way. Like when he came, Rick, when Conte came, I said to you, right, we've gone out on that Welcome Conte show. We've gone out and got a Bentley. Now you've got to service the Bentley. You've got to drop 600 quid on a tyre in each corner. Your service, every time you go in for a service, you're 2.5, 3 grand, not 200 or 300 quid. Like with with a nice Vauxhall or a decent Merc or something. This is the problem. They've brought him in, and they're just not meeting his running costs. So, oh man, it's tough. Do you know what? I think the board's probably just going to take the easy option out from this, and he'll either walk or they'll get rid of him, and they'll bring Poch back because they'll know it'll be a populist decision.
Amongst a certain percentage.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he'll get a certain amount out of this team at the moment because some of those don't look happy to be playing for Poch either. Playing for Conte at the moment.
We've still got 7 or 8 that we're here under Poch. This is the crazy thing, Cracks. We talk about a rebuild.
Yeah, and some of those will come back because the ball's not doing their thing. So, exactly. So it's all that having a plan, sticking with it, progressing, buying players, like coming in. Yep. Conte, like Conte with Lloris, he needs to make a tough decision now. Get somebody else in new, and at the moment, maybe drop him. I mean, amongst the other players, you go, oh, blimey, like, he means a bit of business here. Sonny's just not doing enough at the moment. So, do you look to drop him and try and do something a bit different? You may have to differ your the way you play the game and your systems, but he doesn't want to do that. That's what I'm saying. It's just this bit from box A, bit from box B, bit from box C, coming together and just being a mess. Yeah. It's just a mess.
Just so you coming on to well, Rich, I want to get your opinion on this. Even with Basuma, who were arguing when we saw Basuma up against top 4, top 5 teams last season, was arguably the best player on the pitch. But it does feel, this is only my personal opinion, it feels to me that he's been overcoached and to some degree looks so low on confidence now that I had no problem with Sarr starting today. Because I'll be honest with you, I thought Sarr was Tottenham's best player on the pitch. And I know that was, again, a really poor North London derby. And we won't be watching that back again anytime soon. But Pat Matasar, for me as a Tottenham, watching it from a Tottenham perspective as a player, for me was brilliant in that game. I was gutted when he came off because he was absolutely superb. Mm-hmm. And Basuma, like I say, in any other season, Basuma would be starting because of his great record against the top 5, the top 6. But he cannot at the moment get a look in because ultimately, for me, he looks so low on confidence. And people can argue it's down to the player. I agree it's a two-way streak. But there's a reason why that he went from being consistent at Brighton for 2, 3, 4 seasons. He's come to Tottenham and looks completely out of his depth. Now, you can argue it's because Tottenham are a much more bigger club than Brighton, but Son has also been completely off the boil this season. So I think there's a number of factors here that are unfortunately coming together, which makes it
because they're not being able to play to their strengths, Rick, are they?
Doesn't feel like that.
Conte's clipped Son's wings in the way he was playing. And same with Basuma. Basuma had much more freedom to express himself at Brighton, but he's being asked to play a different type of role here under Conte. So they just don't seem like Conte-style players. But, if you had somebody back like Pochettino, players like Basuma and Son would absolutely thrive. But then there'd probably be other players that
wouldn't like that because it shows a lack of ambition. Yeah. This is the hard thing.
Exactly. We're a long way off. And that's why I said at the top of the show, and everybody else has said, have a plan, stick to it. Even if you just go through some, some tough times whilst that plan's coming together. But you have to stick with it. You have to. And at the moment, there's no plan. It's
I will just say, Jack Pittbrook set up tremendous, I thought, when I was absolutely spot on. He said, not a perfect comparison, but Arteta's Arsenal is a bit like the old Pochettino Spurs, but with more backing and potentially more success. Whereas Spurs are stuck in this loop of trying to be like Chelsea, but without actually spending enough money on the players to make it work. And I actually think he's absolutely spot on when you look at the fact hiring Mourinho and Conte and then not giving them the actual tools to do the job. I think that screams right. So Jack, absolutely spot on with that. Hartman, if I can come around to you, look, I do feel it was one of those matches where it does feel like Arsenal had the better technical players on their game, but also better organised, technically superior to Spurs. And I've got to be honest with you, watching that, you do feel I don't think I've ever been as disconnected to this team as I felt really probably. I know go back only to Nuno, but it's incredible, devastating how this has changed within 6 months, Darren. So, I mean, ask you about your backing of Conte. Where are you right now on the manager? Do you still feel he's the right man at Tottenham for you? Will he get what he needs? Is he the right man?
I think in terms of Conte, the way I'm looking at it right now is I'm looking at the field of managers available and I'm going, who comes in? As I say, my thing is rather than going out, what's the solution? What do we get if we get rid of Conte? Is Pochettino what we need? And for me, it just screams the problem is the vision, because there is no vision right now and I can't see it. And I don't think anyone in the club structure knows it, because if we're bringing in Pochettino, we're going backwards in terms of the football philosophy, the way we play, we're going back to that. That got us to a Champions League final. And as Poch quite rightly said, he needed to do a rebuild. And then we got rid of him. When he was screaming, I need money, I need investment, I need to change things up, then he was out the door because those things didn't happen. So he's going to come in and what's he going to ask for? Money. What's he going to need? Time. And I think for me, I think Matt said the great point about Spurs being a massive club. And we are. And I think what has started to happen as a Spurs fan in my time that I never thought I'd be a part of is we've become a massive club in terms of financial status. We're making huge numbers. We've got a fantastic stadium and the revenue looks great and we're a great marketing prospect and we're good on the business market and the shares look great. But on the pitch, it's not there. And I don't think the vision is for that. And that's scary. Because right now, I don't know if the board are happy with top four, if they're happy to finish fifth, if they're happy to... I don't know what the vision is. And that is where my issue lies, is if Conte knows what the vision is, like the way he spoke after the game, going, oh, what I saw, I was happy with. And I go, if you're happy with that, you're happy then to lose to Man City next week.
Massively worried.
You know what I mean? You're happy for that loss. You're happy to be what we're all now calling second half FC. You're happy for us to be that team, to be 2-0 down and then try and recoup the points from that aspect every game. It's a massive worry. And then where are we going to finish? Because right now, the league is a mess. There's no consistency from anybody. As we're seeing right now, we're dropping away from fourth. If we lose the next couple of games, we could be 8th, we could be 9th, because that's how springy the league is. And then if the board going to then suddenly go, oh, we need to sack Conte, and there's the issue for me. Because if that's the trigger and we sack him, what is the vision? And I would love for us to get the vision given to all of us. I know they're talking February about the financial outlay being revealed.
Can we wait till February? Can we wait till February now? We're watching right now. Can we wait that long? You know,
the thing about
arguably,
it is we don't have a choice.
But the mad thing is, this is a really season-defining month for Tottenham. City coming up on Thursday. FA Cup tie coming up against Preston. You know how big that FA Cup tie is to me. It's absolutely huge. And Matt, coming over to you. Look, I mean, the problem I think with Spurs is that precisely at the moment, Arsenal did decide to go for the long-term vision. They went for young players. They built that team up from a very low period. They backed the manager's vision, whether you believe it was right or wrong in terms of the choices he wanted to make with regards to contracts, with regards to signings. And Spurs, we decided to jack that approach, being brutally honest with you, under Pochettino, and decided to go and try and behave like a super club. And I'll say it earlier, you go and appoint Jose Mourinho, you appoint Antonio Conte, but what is the point of appointing those managers if you do not give them the tools to what they need in order to do the job? And this is a continuous loop that we have on repeat with Tottenham over the past 24 months, 36 months, 48 months. What's going to change here, Matt? What's going to change in your opinion? What needs to change and what can change, Matt?
What needs to change is that the people in charge of this club need to decide what they want. They need to decide, is this a business or is this a football club? Because everyone always says, oh, but they brought in this fantastic well, not everybody, but people say they brought in this fantastic training ground, they brought in this stadium, there's the state-of-the-art academy. I can absolutely guarantee that all 4 of us here, and whoever many's watching, 1,000 people watching live right now, I can guarantee that every single one of you would rather that we were playing on a pitch, maybe 5 seats on the side of it, but playing beautiful football, playing the football that we were playing and going in the direction that we were going under Pochettino, than watching that absolute trash in that state-of-the-art stadium tonight. Every single one of us. We need to start acting like a football club. The issue with Daniel Levy and the way he's gone with these last couple of managers, by going from Pochettino to Jose Mourinho, by going then bringing in Antonio Conte, he wants to win. It looks as though maybe there is an ambition there to win trophies, but he doesn't want to go on the journey to get there. He seems to think that it's like, oh, well, I want to do this now. Let's put a couple of 100 million in and we go win a trophy. That's not how this works. You need to build a structure. You need to build a team that has a bit of experience, bit of youth, people who have won trophies. You need to put stuff together to actually get there. And maybe he saw what Leicester did that one time. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just do that. Part of me feels as though Daniel Levy wants to get this club to a point of winning a Premier League or winning a Champions League with as little investment as possible to maximise the value and then sell it for as much profit as he possibly can. Because we can call for Levy out and ENIC out now all we want, but they're not going to get as much money selling the club now as they would if we were successful. So it does seem to me as though he wants to just get that quick, easy way to that trophy and then sell for a massive amount of profit. It's not going to work. It simply isn't. You look at the money United, City, Chelsea, even Newcastle have, even Arsenal. You talk about how Arsenal are doing so well now. Arsenal are exactly what we needed to be 5 years ago. We were fighting for titles those 2 seasons, trying to chase Leicester down, trying to chase Chelsea down the next year. We had a squad that was capable of competing for and winning trophies. We just needed a bit of depth. We needed to add a little something to it. And the board thought, no, that squad is doing fine. They're playing good football. They're winning games. Let them do their thing. No, it's just not how it works. Arsenal now are 8 points clear at the top of the table. And they're trying to take that opportunity to improve that squad, going offering €95 million for Mudryk. And in any other transfer window where Chelsea weren't doing whatever they're doing, they probably would, maybe a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, have got that deal done for Mudryk. And they would have had another fantastic player going into a position in the squad that they needed to improve. Tottenham just don't have that ability to do what needs to be done at the right time. Everything is either done too early. I think when the stadium and all that was done, maybe not the board's fault. I think if we had another year at White Hart Lane, we potentially could have won the Premier League, how good we were there in the last season. But everything else is done 6, 12, 18 months too late. It's all reactionary. Every single thing that is done is reactionary. And I just don't think we're going to get anywhere when we keep going through the same cycle, because if they put out a statement tonight saying they sacked Antonio Conte, tomorrow morning we get in Thomas Tuchel, we get in Mauricio Pochettino, we get in Roberto De Zerbi, whoever it is, I can guarantee you we'll be here having that exact same conversation in 18 months' time. There just needs to be a structure and a plan and a vision and something that we can just actually feel is bringing this club somewhere. If you want to do that journey, if you want to go somewhere, let's play good football. Like Cracker said, if maybe we weren't getting the best results, if we had a bad season or so, but we were playing good football and showing this is what we want to do, this is the club we want to be, then when we're playing that football that we want to play, we can see what positions need to be filled. We can get in the players for those positions, and in 3-4 years, we have the club, the squad that we want. But if that's what we want to do, and we're playing defensive football, even though we want to play attacking football, but we want to win trophies, but we want to make money while we're getting, it's all over the place. The entire thing from top to bottom is an absolute mess. And something's got to change. I don't think it's going to be the thing that needs to change, though.
You know what? The ultimate irony is, Cracks, coming over to you. I mean, I've got to say, we've gone, under Conte. He took over in an utter shambles, as we've all made that point. He took Spurs from 9th to 4th, secured a Champions League spot at the expense of Arsenal, and yet they've pushed on. And it baffles me how this has all come together in the last 6 months. And I've got to try and get my head around that, how we've regressed to where we are. But also, I mean, look, as we've said, the irony is in that game that we did create a number of chances in the second half. I'm not going to talk about that first half, but, we never looked like scoring, Cracks. I don't mean to be rude, but did you ever feel confident getting back into that game?
No.
Even with those chances, Cracks?
No, because, Ramsdale had a decent game. Lloris didn't. Saka had a really decent game. Sessegnon didn't. And even in that second half from about 60, 65 minutes, when we went knocking on the door, it never looked like we was actually going to knock that door down. They just coped with us. And, they sat back a bit. They knew at 2-0 they were cruising. They didn't have to do so much. And we just looked bereft. We were side to side. We were just, couldn't find a decisive ball through. There's just not the personnel there. There's nobody in that midfield to do that. And down the wings, there's not the people to get the ball across. Kulusevski got a couple of crosses in, but they coped with us. And, where you said Conte got us from 9th up to 4th, he got a quick fix reaction from that squad and that team and got us to that point. But behind that, Arsenal were slowly building. And they missed out last season because they were on this journey which just took a bit longer. We've sort of come in, quick fixed, dead cat bounce, if you like, got a bit of a bounce, and now we're back to just where we are with this mess again, because there's just not that blueprint and that plan going forward. That's what we need. Whoever it is, I don't mind who it is, but like the board, whoever comes out from the board and addresses where we are, what we're doing, where we're going, there's just silence from them, isn't there? They'll wheel out.
We've been told we've got to wait till February, which makes me laugh when all the big games are with Tottenham are this month. And in terms of, we've got Arsenal, we had Arsenal City, we lost to Villa, Preston in the Cup. I mean, I'll be honest to say to you now, Preston for me, it's the biggest game of our season. People are going to laugh at that. It's League One Preston in the FA Cup, and it's actually that sad that Arsenal are 8 points clear at the top. I won't even tell you how many points they are ahead of us, but it's actually quite sad when the FA Cup, for me, is the biggest thing of our season, and we're in the Champions League still against AC Milan. But the way we're playing right now and the lack of direction from the top is massively, massively scary. And look, I mean, again, I think...
But two or three players coming in fixes that, Rick, doesn't it?
We can get...
It starts to fix it, yeah.
Does it fix it right now for you, then, what we're seeing
no,
on the field?
Of course not. But it begins to show an intent, doesn't it? Okay, these are the two or three players that's been identified by our current management team of Paratici and Conte. We've gone out and got them. So all of a sudden, you've improved two or three positions. So it's not the final answer, but it begins to show a little bit of where you are going, doesn't it? Here's two or three. That's improved us. Okay, we've got those two or three in that we identified. It's a start, Rick. We've got to start somewhere. But and that comes from the board just going, here you go. Here's those 2-3 players that are identified and we've got them in. And, and then the board says, and come next summer's transfer window, we'll go again and we'll try to improve again. But you're just not seeing that. You're just seeing nothing from them at all. The only time you hear from Daniel is like when these financial figures come out and he puts a statement out. And he seems, so what if we've got 200 million, 300 million, a squillion quid in the bank? I don't care. I don't care what you've got in the bank and how well it's doing in that respect. Spend some of it then on the football team, what we're all here for. Yeah, the stadium's lovely. Yeah, Lady Gaga appearing every other week on ice and in monster trucks. Fantastic, bringing some money in. But I don't care. I don't care about all that. I just want you to back the team. It just seems like a fantastic property company and business with a fairly decent works football team at the moment, doesn't it? Everything is just build a business. Oh, and by the way, we do have a football team going as well. Everybody else is whatever they're doing externally, shirt sales, this, that, concerts, that, all feeding into the team. It just seems that the football team at Tottenham is, just another one of those things that they've got in their portfolio. And we ain't here for that. That has to change. That really, really has to change. And, I know Daniel doesn't like coming out and speaking publicly. Well, tough. Don't be a football chairman, because right now you need to convey to all of us as fans what your vision is for this club at the moment. So you can't just keep putting out a nicely worded statement with your financial results. That's not enough. We ain't signed up for that. We ain't going up the high road in an open top bus with the cheque for our dividends this year, are we? Well, who cares about that?
Again, I will emphasise that point. Waiting until February is not good enough. I just think waiting until February is not good enough.
No.
When you look at that display today,
it seems cynical, Rick. It seems cynical that they're not going to release it until after the window's shut. Well, I tell you what, if those results are off the scale, like it's being rumoured, and we haven't bought anyone, then, it's going to start getting real toxic real quick, and we're beginning. And it's not right, by the way, the scenes that we've seen at Everton this weekend.
No, I feel for that club as well. That club is not dissimilar in areas and how they feel.
that's the way it goes, because that's the nature of your customer. You have got some people there that this means so much to them. The only way that they can convey their feelings is via these sorts of ugly protests.
I will say that again with Everton.
They need to be careful.
Yeah, we'll say that again with Everton. Obviously, there was the absent owners there at Everton, but there was actually never any statement released by the police or evidence to show that the incidents they quoted actually took place. But again, another club, similar problems to ours. We're not as far down the league as that, but believe me, it does feel that we have got a real lack of a direction or a sense of it. We have got to go for our first break of the show in just a second. But before we do, Dow, I've got to come to you and Matt before we do. Dow, we've made a point, I think, again, a number of times so far in this show that, there's a thing that Conte needs to walk into a ready-made club to some degree, maybe to not a project like there is at Tottenham, who are never going to be really the finished article in a position to challenge with this current ownership that we've got right now. In your mind now, what happens? What happens in your mind? Does anything change between now and the rest of the season, or are we going to continue down this path in your mind?
I think, as we've all been talking about the vision, I think the next... how many days we've got left to January? We're like 15, something like that.
It's 16 in the morning, 15 and a half.
Yeah,
like I think in this half we're going to do things tonight, but there you go.
Yeah, I think if things are going to change, it's this window right here. Because, as I said earlier, after what we're seeing today, after what we've all been vocalising, everyone should be annoyed and frustrated today. Everyone should be at that point of going, something has to happen. There has to be a reaction. We can't keep expecting to make this work because it isn't working. So for me, I'm expecting some signings. If the vision is keep Conte, I will expect signings to come in. If the vision isn't to keep Conte, we'll stay as it is. And then, as Crack's quite rightly said, there'll be a massive report that will come out in February of how much money we've made. Conte will disappear. As fans will be livid because we have all that money. Why didn't we back him? Then it will be a reshuffle, and then we'll be ending up treading water again. And that's the scary thing about where we're at, treading water. We don't need to do that to ourselves. So, yeah, we have 15 days. I would love, being a positive Spurs fan, I would love to see Conte get what he's asking for and the ball to give him what he wants. As we've said on here, the Rolls Royce, if that is what they believe they've got, they've employed him. If they think he's as good as he's meant to be, give him what he's asking for. If you don't rate him, get rid of him. That's what the board have to do. If you're not rating the picture, get rid of him. And then say, we don't like him, we made a mistake, then get someone else in. So for me, I have to stay positive because that's the way I live. I'm going to say that this transfer window isn't going to end empty. I do think there's going to be players coming in. I'm hoping for 2. I would love to see 3, but I'm hoping for 2. If we get it, I'll be ecstatic. And I've mentioned before on here, and I just want to talk about Lloris. I've been one to say how great he is. Historically, what an amazing goalkeeper he is. We can see he's having a few jitters right now. He's making mistakes. Spurs fans, all I can say is let's not crucify a man when he's struggling, because he is a great goalkeeper. And if we have no other option, if Conte's not going to put anyone else there, we've got to get behind him. As a goalkeeper and as a footballer, we know if they're on your back, you get nervous, you get tense, you worry. He will make another clanger if we don't throw love at him. So let's try and do that, people. Let's try and run it.
You make some good points there, Dal. One thing I do want to say is, again, this is no criticism of our fan base. They were superb today. They stayed with the team throughout. But this is the one thing that I talk about with bravery of players. And I actually started watching Everton yesterday that, it takes a certain kind of player to be able to play in front of a fan base that are demanding, expectant. And I think, have we got enough players in that team that actually have the bravery, the courage, the desire to be able to play in a North London derby? And it sounds mad we're saying this because, we're going 6 months ago back and we beat Arsenal 3-0. Granted, they're not all the same players that they were 6 months ago. But at the moment, we just do not look like a coherent team. And I know I've said that time and time and time again. But Matt, to come over to you, as Dow has mentioned, look, there are a little over 15 days left of this current transfer window. It does feel like massive changes are going to be needed to salvage something from this season. That sounds mad saying that when, of course, we've got the FA Cup, we've got the Champions League. We're still in a position where you feel maybe if we get 2 or 3 in and transform these performances where top 4 isn't out of the question. I've got to be honest and say, for me at the moment, we look a million miles away from the teams that we're competing for the top 4. United have got momentum. Newcastle have got the momentum. I'm actually more worried. I'm looking behind me at Brighton and Brentford. I shouldn't be thinking like that as a Spurs fan, but genuinely, I'm looking behind me, more thinking about what's behind us than what's ahead of us. So the implications, Matt, of not doing anything big in this window could have huge ramifications, you feel, for the years to come, with Kane's future up in the air, Conte's future up in the air. Just how important, Matt, before we go for our first break, is, and Fulham as well, I must add, Fulham as well, thank you so much, Fulham as well behind us. How big are these next 15 days of this window for you, Matt?
Yeah, I was actually just going to mention that before we got to that comment. I can't see us getting much at Fulham either. They've been fantastic this season. I don't trust that we can go there and get a result. But again, just coming back to Ricky Crackers used the word intent. Just get in players in the positions that we need to improve. I'm not too bothered about going into a summer and getting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 signings. If we get 3 or 4 signings, but it addresses the key issues in our squad, then I'm happy. We can't afford to go through another window and not get a right wing back. Again, pay that release clause for Pedro Porro. He is a player who caused us a lot of problems in that position. He is, if we're to believe what we're hearing, the man that Antonio Conte wants there. There is absolutely no excuse for us to come out of this window not having Pedro Porro as our right wing back if that is what Conte wants. If we have a £30 million budget and his release clause is £39 million, I'm pretty sure ENIC can muster up £9 million somewhere if they really want to back the manager and want us to have something to do this season. We get a right wing back and we get a left centre back in this window, I'm happy. I don't think we're going to be able to get a left centre back like a Bastoni or a Vardial or a Torres that really fixes the issue that we have right now. But we need to get someone in. Get in a left centre back. I think Longley did very well when he played in the middle of that 3. Put Longley in there and get whoever you need out on that left hand side. Just get in and show intent and show even just a basic understanding of what issues we're having on the football pitch. It all, again, Daniel Levy is a businessman. He's not a football man. We're not going to change your opinion on that. We're not going to trust that you do know the best thing for this club on the football pitch if you can't identify those clear issues that we're having. So these transfers are absolutely massive. Look at what we did last season. We were in a very similar position last January, and we had games. I think we lost at home to Southampton. We lost at home to Wolves. We were beaten 3 times by Chelsea in the space of a month. Our next game was City away. We had absolutely no hope. But we got in players like Bentancur and Kulusevski who were exactly what we needed. We could not have gotten 2 better players in that window, and it got us into the top 4. Just address the issues. Simple as that. That's all I'm asking for from this window. And then I think we might have something in the latter half of the season, but I still wouldn't think that we have enough to get into that top 4, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you've spoken very, very honest there, Matt. One thing I do need to mention that we haven't got round to yet, I mean, there's so much to talk about during the show, is at the final whistle, we saw a incident with Richarlison and Ramsdale, and it looks like a fan ran down the south stand and tried to kick, or did kick, the Arsenal goalkeeper in the back. I think that, as we were going to say on last one on Spurs, we don't condone any violence at all whatsoever, and we understand Spurs have released a statement on that incident, which will be dealt with in hand. So, yeah, just to clear that up, what we are going to do is we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. We're joined tonight by the wonderful Richard Cracknell, the superb Darren Hartman, and the brilliant Matty Hayes, giving you therapy on the back of that North London derby defeat. We've got over 1,000 plus of you taking the therapy. So again, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Before we get on to the team lineup, we are going to review just the stats from today, which, to be fair, just probably as painful as the game. Spurs did have 17 shots to Arsenal's 14. Don't be alerted that a lot of those shots came in the second half. Spurs is 7 on target to Arsenal's 5. Corners, Spurs is 4 in Arsenal's 3. And the possession, Spurs slightly inched 51% to 49. But again, the XG, a telling stat there, 1.63 to Arsenal's 2.42. But again, like I say, that game itself, Spurs, I understand, just 20 touches in the opposition's box in that second half. Simply not good enough for a team in a North London derby that needs to be putting their rival to the sword to go and win that game. But look, we are going to discuss the lineup from today, always broken down by the brilliant Ali Gold over at Football London. Cracks, coming over to you. Spurs' injury problems did ease ahead of the North London derby to some degree. We had Dejan Kulusevski in the starting lineup and also handing Pat Matasar a start in that centre of the pitch. Richarlison back on the bench. Rodrigo Bentancur missing out. Conte did say that he would speak about the availability after Saturday's final training session. It was deemed that, again, in terms of Bentancur, not fit enough to start. But Pat Matasar, for him, from not playing a single minute in the first half of the season, he ended up now starting against his full start for Portsmouth and then a first Premier League start against Arsenal. Ryan Sessegnon preferred ahead of Ivan Perisic, while Ibrahim was back from an ankle injury and on the bench. Conte's main choice came on the left of the back three, where he went for Ben Davies with his experience of this game. Clement Longlow, his own experience of other big matches. So that team did read Lloris, Romero, Dyer, Longley, Doherty, Sarr, Højbjerg, Sessegnon, Kulusevski, Kane and Son, with a bench of Forster, Sanchez, Davies, Perisic, Basuma, Emerson, Skip, Richarlison, Hill. I don't know, Cracks, if you're like me, but when that team came out, my heart did drop. I don't know about you, Cracks. What did you think of that team?
In the middle there, Rick. Just not enough. The two there, is it? Sessegnon has just looked weak. It just never looked like it was ever going to be at the races, did it? But again, this is the problem with our squad depth, because we've just not invested enough. And as much as Conte needs, as I said, to change what he does, there also needs to be that choice of personnel to do that as well. But yeah, that it just never looked like it was going to compete, did it? Really, it's just we can't get any service in the Son, in the Kane. We just got overrun. They targeted Sessegnon. They knew how weak we was down that side. And then, you've got this issue with Lloris as well at the moment, that's just in a bad place. Whether that's a form thing or whether he's actually coming to the end, I think the latter, that it's, that Lloris is now, his race is run as a goalkeeper and we have to come in. So it's just somebody new has to come in, sorry. So it's just too many weak links there, isn't there? Way too many weak links. And as I said earlier, you go and get those 2 or 3 players that improve us, and it's a start. It really is a start. It's it just I don't know, Rick. You look at that team and you look at what we was up against, and you feared. I think in the end 2-0 flattered us. To be honest, I really do think it flattered us. I thought at one stage we were going to get a proper hiding.
That first half, Cracks, coming over to it, I'm not going to lie, it could have been a cricket score. I'm not joking. Partey off the post. There was one point where they were battering us. And I don't use that word battering, but they were literally battering us, where Spurs were in their own half in a North London derby, where Tottenham at the home side should be taking the game to Arsenal. This is the
Rick,
same
isn't
team.
It's every game, Rick.
3-0 last season.
You're right. It's every game, that first halves. And it's only that we play lesser quality teams than the one we did today. It means that we stay in the game and then come out and do what we do in the second half. But today they were good enough to cope with that second half. I wouldn't say an onslaught, but a certain uptick in what we was doing and the intent. And again, this is where the road leads back to Conte in. Why do you keep persisting in doing this? And if you are, I'm not having that. But you get more out of this current team, and there is more to be had out of this current team with a change of what you do. But at the same time, there's an equal kick up the arse coming for the board of improving this team as well. They both have to do something different. It's or get rid of Conte and get somebody in that will do better than this team. I mean, it's a bit like this current Enoch out. Okay, I don't care who runs the club, to be honest. I wouldn't know Joe Lewis if he walked down the road and poked me in the eye. I wouldn't know what the man looks like. And I think most chairmen and board members of clubs are like that. You don't know who they are, but it's just so I don't care who runs it, but you can want Enoch out. That's fine. Go and find somebody with 3-4 billion quid to take us over, and then we'll talk from there. So there is people out there that will buy the club, but they have to match their valuation. So in the meantime, it's what we've got is what we've got. So you just pressurize them to the point of getting them out or reforming and changing. It's as simple as that. Well, let me be bluntly honest. A lot of this Enoch out people, I have, to a point, I have sympathies with them, and I can see where they're coming from with wanting something better than what we've been getting for 20 years. Absolutely that. But within that group of people, there's an element of them that are like wishing illness and death on members of our current. I can't have that, and that's the problem. And I think that's what's stopping a lot of the moderates getting involved with that organ, that sort of momentum, if you like. It's like
hashtag,
because
and that hashtag,
exactly, because if you do start calling that, you're tarred with the same brush, and I can't be having that. You know, David Gold sadly passed away at West Ham, and I'm seeing tweets saying, "Oh, like, why can't it be us?" That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting behaviour, and a lot of that comes from within that element of the Enoch out like brigade, you know. And I can't have any stall with that. So this is why I don't want to be tarred with those same people. That's why we come on this show and say, I want to see change. Oh, you know, if that's Enoch doing things differently, so be it. If that's them going, so be it. But you know, I can't have any truck with that, Rick. I'm sorry, I cannot. So that's why I sort of distance myself from that. There's more sensible elements of it. I get where you're coming from. I do genuinely get where you're coming from. But that side of it, forget it. I've got no truck with it at all.
Dal, I know it sounds bad to say this. We've got to try and turn our attention to looking back at elements of this game. Don't worry, I'm not going to put everyone through another 90 minutes of what we had to watch or go through. Dal, look, first goal. I mean, even I say first chance actually went to Arsenal. I have to say, dodgy moment for Lloris. His feet, he was put under pressure. He made up for it. A good save from Nketiah. But even for those first couple of minutes, I've got to say that there was that element of a lack of bravery, courage from Tottenham in terms of having the ball at their feet. It's almost like the weight of that stadium came down on a lot of those players. And I will say this again, that in that first 20 minutes, although we wasn't awful, it felt like we were playing against 14, 15 Arsenal players. It felt like we were the away side. And I just had a bad feeling about where that game was going. Even at 0-0, it just felt so much pressure. And that pressure did ultimately tell with yet another individual error. Saka's cross pushed into his own net by Spurs captain Hugo Lloris. It did take a tiny deflection of Sessegnon, but yeah, another massive high-profile error from Hugo Lloris. I just don't know what you do about that. You know, Hartman, how can you legislate for that in a North London derby? And how many times have we said error from Lloris in so many games this season? Look, Matt was right. Been a great servant for us. Travesty if he doesn't win a title, a trophy even for what he's given us at this football club. But you can't make mistakes like that. You can't make mistakes like that in these high-profile games at any level. Even at Sunday League, it's just simply not good enough, Hartman, is it? And it's the continual errors from Lloris at the moment.
It is. It's the errors from Lloris, but I think it's also, I think Conte has to hold his hands up today and go, he made some bad calls. And as Matt quite rightly flagged up, I tweeted early this morning a picture of me and my hands over my mouth saying, I'm not going to speak until I'm here. And I knew the formation we was going to set out with, and I knew it was going to be our own downfall. I knew we didn't have the personnel in the middle of the park to compete with Arsenal the way they're playing right now. We were always going to make a mess for ourselves. And I think that's the frustrating thing as a Spurs fan right now, because we're watching them do it to themselves. For 45 minutes, we watched them punish themselves with no imagination. The pass to the sideway, the pressure builds on them constantly. And that's what we were watching. We're watching our team just carry the pressure. And that's what's going to happen. You carry pressure like that, players are going to make mistakes. Hugo made his one today. That's what's going to happen. And we're inviting that. We're saying, come on, whoever comes, whether it's home or away right now, wherever we go, wherever we're playing for 45 minutes, put it on us. We're just going to sit here and we're just going to allow you to put all that pressure on us, and we crack and we break. And in the second half, we're going to try and fix it. It's a weird philosophy. I don't understand why we're doing it. I don't get it. And I think today, again, was another testament of where our season has been at. We're a second half side where we react rather than we respond. We don't go into a match going, this is our plan, we're going to execute something. We go, let's see what they're going to do and then see how we can respond to that later. It's a crazy way of playing football right now. And it's it's scary because we weren't that side and we've never been that side, and we've now become it, and it feels like it's in the DNA of everybody, and mistakes are going to continue to come if this is the way we're going to play. I am scared for our next few games because we're playing teams with confidence right now. Even though people go, Man City ain't playing well, they know they're playing us, so they're going to come for it. They've just lost the derby, they're going to come for it. But you see that everyone else has a reaction after a loss. What we do is we play the same way, and that's frustrating. That we're not learning from our mistakes that we seem to be making week in and week out. It is starting to go, come on, boys, we can all see it. Someone respond and react and fix and change.
It's a common theme for this show that we keep on saying is that, for me, it just feels like the players coming around to you, Matty, are just uncomfortable with what they're being asked to do. And maybe it's not about them even actually trying to play football now. It's about what they're being asked to do on that field, which we've now seen over a continuation, I would say, over the last 10, 11 games. I think at the start, look, we were getting the results. I think we were quite happy to get the results and not play to a full 100% performance, because we always thought we're going to be building for that result. Kulusevski's going to come back. We're going to have players that are going to come back. Richie's going to come back. Although we've obviously seen Richie for a full 90, and obviously it was great to see him come on and show a bit of passion, which we lacked for huge emphasis points of that game. But the worry is that it does feel that this current system that they're being asked to play isn't getting the best out of the players. And also the tactics as well seem to encourage these mistakes. Game by game, whether you want to look at Lloris, whether you want to look at Dyer, whether you look at Højbjerg, this is the real worry right now. And you said it earlier, Lloris, 4 errors leading to an opposition goal in the Premier League so far this season. Twice as many as any other player. And no disrespect to Lloris, as we said, been a great servant to the club, going to be in nearly 10 years. He's been doing this for the last 3 years, Matt. We've known that we've needed a replacement for Lloris, not just 1 year, not just 2 years. We've been looking for his replacement, and we've tried. Galini, Forster, obviously now we've accepted that he's a backup, because it seems at the moment in our ownership's mind, we can't do better than Lloris. And that's a big, big concern right now. So how much do you put this down, Matt, as well, not just on Lloris, but also on the ownership for not identifying that position that we need to improve upon a couple of years back?
Absolutely, completely on the ownership. It comes back to what I was saying. Everything is reactionary. We still haven't replaced Christian Eriksen. We didn't replace Dembele until 18 months after he's gone. We tried to do it with Ndombele and now with Bentancur. Lloris, when he signed the 2-year contract, which we all knew was going to be that last 2 years would be his swan song, he'd be what we hoped would be slowly faded out of the team. He said himself he wanted to help his replacement bed into this team. He wanted to be part of that transition. And for a player who has had such a fantastic career in terms of his own personal performances for so long, didn't get the trophies that he deserved. For him to give 2 years like that to the football club to help us onto that next level, that's a massive sacrifice from him. We get Galini on loan. Just did not work. He's not a goalkeeper. He's a hype man. I put him in the dressing room before every game, but I wouldn't put him on the football pitch. And we bring in Fraser Forster, who's a year younger than Hugo Lloris. We had so many good opportunities to get someone in and get them learning from Lloris. I think any young goalkeeper can learn so much from Lloris. The individual mistakes, I can't explain them. I don't know why they happen, but that's not really something that you can pass on to the next man. We're going to end up with a new keeper coming in the summer, hopefully. God forbid we don't get one. And they're going to be thrown in the deep end. There's not going to be a Lloris there to help them. There's not going to be someone there to bed them in, and it's just going to be starting anew. And it's not easy to replace a long-term goalkeeper like Hugo Lloris, as much as we need to replace him now. I think our next goalkeeper isn't going to be a 10-year player, or one after that. It could be a while before we get another servant like Lloris. But on the point you were making about the tactics not really suiting these players, what tactics would? Because I think what Conte did a lot, and I always love the way Maurizio Sarri did this in the Premier League, where you pass the ball around the back, you just mess around with it, you invite the team onto you, and you try and hit them then once they initiate that press. We couldn't pass beyond their press. Like you said, Arsenal's first chance came from Lloris. He had 5-6 seconds on the ball, and he waited and messed up the pass. So inviting the press on and trying to play it around them wasn't working. So then we started to go long. Fair enough, change it up, try something new. But we weren't even challenging for the headers. There's 1.5 minutes to go in the game where the ball was lumped up the pitch and Harry Kane just ran into Gabriel. He didn't challenge for the ball. He just ran through him. So
Matt,
we tried that something.
You on this point, Matt, you say there, we saw at Chelsea where it wasn't working, and actually it was against Arsenal where he changed, I think, to a back three, which subsequently I think led Chelsea on to an incredible unbeaten run, which of course led to them winning the league against Pochettino Spurs. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like, though, Matt, he will change or wants to change, does it? He obviously seems for him that this is the best formation in his mind that he can go with. But I'm struggling to understand what leads him to believe that when we're seeing his continued performances.
Yeah, I think that moment, that halftime switch that Conte made against Arsenal and won in the league, that it will always be looked at back at such a brilliant coaching moment to make that change. Our players at the moment are better suited to playing a back four, defensively especially. Emerson does not have attacking quality. I don't think he's good enough for Tottenham, but he will be better suited to be playing right back in a back four. Romero, we got him from Atalanta, where he played in a back four. Yes, he's playing a back three in Argentina, or is it the other way around? He's played a back three somewhere, back four somewhere. He works in both. He'll work in a back four. Longley might be better there. And be able to put an extra attacking player there, a number 10, an attacking midfielder, which we don't really have at the moment, but is something that could be addressed. I don't understand from a board perspective why they're not giving Antonio Conte the right wing back like he needs, like I mentioned with Pedro Porro. But I also don't understand from an Antonio Conte perspective why he's still insisting on relying so heavily on the right wing back. Every Conte cam we see, the only thing he does is screaming, give the ball out to the right wing back, give the ball out, just pointing at Emerson or Doherty, whoever it is. We don't have a player good enough for there. Switch it up a little bit. Try something new. I know we switched to a 4-4-2 in that game today, but it was just throwing the kitchen sink at Arsenal. I wouldn't look at that too much as a tactical idea going forward. But yeah, it's just stubbornness the whole way through, all the way around. I think Conte's more in the right to be stubborn because we know what he can do. We know what he can achieve when he has what he needs. But I would like to see just something a little bit different. Try it out. Yeah. I know early in the season we switched to the 3-5-2. It worked sometimes, didn't quite work other times. But there's absolutely no excuse for not playing three in the midfield today.
Agree. We looked weak in there. We look feeble and weak. Cracks, come over to you. Conte has had his say on Lloris's mistake. He says, in this situation, it's always difficult. It's not positive to be focused on only one situation. Football is this, and sometimes you can do positive and save many situations. But honestly, I consider Hugo one of the best keepers in the world, and it can happen. It can happen that sometimes you can make a mistake. The mistake of the keeper is more noticeable. Hugo, for us as a player, who is very important for the dressing room, the personality, and he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I mean, look, Cracks, he's never going to come out and throw the goalkeeper under the bus. He's not going to come out and throw the captain under the bus.
Of course not. Of course not.
You know, to make that reference, one of the best in the world when we're seeing a continual amount of errors week upon week, where a comment that came up earlier, I agree. I think France, this is no disrespect to Lloris, they deliberately didn't pass back to Lloris because they knew that Lloris isn't capable with his feet. That's no disrespect because he's a wonderful shot stopper. Although, again, I will say, beating from long range for the second goal, which we're going to come on to. There's no other alternative, though, is there, Cracks, at the moment? You even saw with Forster against Brentford, even that first goal, we looked suspect for it. Are we just winding this out now? Are we just winding it out to the summer?
There is an alternative. Go out and buy a new keeper because we have got the money for it. I could give you 3 keepers straight off the bat that would absolutely improve us in goal. And Marmadashvili, Valencia, fantastic goalkeeper. Raya at Brentford would improve us, and so would your man at Brighton.
Yes,
Robert Sanchez.
Thank you,
Robert
Sanchez.
Yep.
There's 3 goalkeepers straight away. Mendy at Chelsea even might be tempted if he's getting the number 1 slot. But, you know, as Matt said, where you've got to bed in a keeper, if you go and buy a keeper of good quality, they come in and hit the ground running anyway. So, do you know, the game's passed Lloris by now. It's no good just being a good goalkeeper. You have to be almost a footballer that could play at probably Division 1 Championship level now as a goalkeeper. You have to actually be a really decent footballer. Firstly and foremostly, you have to be a goalkeeper, but you have to be a bit of a footballer. And Lloris just isn't that, is he? That goalkeeping has moved on so much since Lloris learnt his craft. Absolutely moved on. And we've got to move on and replace him. I see in the comments a little while ago, are you still celebrating Lloris's career? Probably alluding to a tweet that I put up after he retired from international football. Absolutely I am, because he was a great goalkeeper. But obviously somebody's not listening, because I am saying his time's done. His race is run. There's no room for sentiment in the game or anything. He's now done, and he has to go. Why not this window? He has to go, and if that's in the summer, then so be it. If you can't get your target, but either this window or the summer, he does have to be replaced. But that doesn't take anything away from the career that he's had. So you can be both. You can be box A and box B here. You can say what a fantastic keeper he was, but he now needs replacing. And Conte, he's going to say those things about him, isn't he? But today he made that first mistake when he let the ball run across him, a mistake we're seeing all too often now. And then the mistake for the goal, there was blood in the water, and the Sharks of Arsenal smelt it. It just exudes that
1-0.
Of course.
They knew we were there to take it.
It's jittery, isn't it? He's your club captain, and he's causing, it's jittery, and back 3, back 4 see that, and they react all blind. Well, so. There has to be that confidence that comes to give those in front of you a bit of confidence as well. It's an important role, the goalkeeper. It's absolutely huge. It's not celebrated in the same way as strikers are, but it's a huge role, and it's something that needs addressing ASAP for me. And we have got the money to address it. This club has to spend money on these positions.
I tell you what, Rich, especially Rich is our captain, when that's meant to be the person that's commanding the team, and you're meant to look at him as one of the examples.
Exactly.
That is the biggest worry. You've got him as the captain. Exactly. He's meant to be that leader, and we're just simply seeing error after error after error. We said that Arsenal smelt blood. They did. Spurs had been dangerously. Good left-handed save from Lloris actually straight after that goal to push away Odegaard's effort from outside the box. Then Partey hit a stunning volley off the post, and it really was at one point backs to the wall stuff. I never thought I'd ever use that term, backs to the wall stuff, in a North London derby with Antonio Conte as Tottenham's manager after what I saw 7 months ago. I just can't believe that I'm saying that, but it did end up being 2-0 down to come round to you. Odegaard hit a low shot from outside the box. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, so much time, criminally so much time. He had so much time to not only line up the ball, but to place it as well. Lloris, I felt, could have done better, but overall, again, Hartman, terrible defending, especially in North London derby.
It was terrible defending. We made them look world class in the middle of the park. Odegaard, Partey, they had so much space, so much time. They're interchanged between each other. We were chasing shadows, and it's a hard watch. It's a very, very hard watch. And I think Cratchy made a great point earlier. Forget about for a second it being Arsenal. A far superior side schooled us today, and that's what we got to try and look at as well. Is that there are other teams in the league that are going to do the same thing to us unless we improve or make changes to how we're playing, because teams are very quick to work out what Spurs do. And it's our blueprint is very easy. They know our formation. They know we're going to set up. They know the problems we have. Our left and right wing backs are not the best defensively. They're attacking those areas, and we're under pressure. Unless we change that, we're going to get what we got today. And listen, we're making teams look better than they are. We're giving every team 10% more. And I think when we play against teams like Arsenal and when we play Man City, the big ones, if we give them the 10% more, we're going to always come up the way we came up today. We're always going to come up short. We're always going to look like that. And we can't keep giving ourselves these huge mountains to climb in the second half. We're not superheroes. We're not that side. So why are we doing it to us? I don't know. But today, yeah, again, we made another midfield look absolutely world-class against ours. And yes, we had Sarr making his first start, and Richie made a great point. He did play well, but he was overrun. We didn't have the personnel. We didn't have enough bodies in there, and it was embarrassing and frustrating for everyone in the stadium, frustrating for us all watching at home, because we can all see it. And I think that's the point that is getting a bit jarring now, is that we can all see the problem.
I'd agree. Matty, come around to you. Look, we've been with Spurs before being 2-0 down, and arguably we have earned points when we've been up against lesser sides. But Arsenal, to be fair, as we said, dominated that first half. And again, we're going to be honest and say Conte's tactical approach massively exposing that first half. And although for the second game running, Lloris dropping a clanger to the opening goal, was you quite surprised, Matt? Not a single solitary change at the break. We saw Richarlison do a vigorous warm-up on the touchline, but bearing in mind we've been outplayed for a lot of that first half. Second half, go out again, lads. Not a single change. Can you understand that, Matt?
I can't say I was surprised, but I think something had to change. Look, maybe it's even just to play devil's advocate a little bit. It might make sense because we don't see Tottenham until the start of the second half. So we didn't really know exactly what way we were going to play. We didn't know who was going to be on the ball for us in that second half. So maybe it makes sense to see how that first 10, 15 minutes of the second period starts to go, and then you see who you need to change. But the changes weren't made early enough for me. I mentioned earlier in the show, I think some players should have been brought on earlier to get to have more of an impact. I think maybe Sonny should have been taken off and put Richarlison out in the left, or even change someone else, which is put Richarlison on the left, because that's where he was always at his best for Everton. That's where he's really made a name for himself in the Premier League. And Son, again, just not at it, just not good enough in possession, out of possession, whatever you want to say. I think there probably should have been some changes earlier in the game, but I'm gone beyond the point of being surprised. I think I've always really been critical of Conte's changes or lack thereof.
You know what's funny, Matt? We saw second half start. We saw Kulusevski have a chance, shot over the bar. We then saw another chance for him. Kane fed him in. Big save from Ramsdale. Kane playing in Sessegnon. Keeper got a vital touch. It is absolutely baffling how we wake up after half time when we've been ragged for most of the game in the first half. And I just can't get my head around, Matt, how we somehow in the second half start with so much more energy. We actually press the opposition high up. And it's almost like someone flicks a switch. How can you explain this? I mean, this is not one game. This is 12, 13, 14 games that we're doing this. It's got to be a coaching, hasn't it, Matt? It's got to be coaching. It can't be anything to do with the players on this one, can it? Can it?
I said earlier on Twitter, I think I blame Conte for not being able to motivate the players for this kind of game, but people made a good point. It's a North London derby. They should be motivated themselves.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just unexplainable. I kind of at a time kind of bought into the theory that maybe earlier in the season we were just maybe conserving energy, saving energy for after the World Cup. There was a lot of our players that were going off there. We didn't want them to be too tired or injury prone coming into the second half of the season. That theory's gone out the window because we've been worse in the first half since we come back from the World Cup. And the issue is every team knows that now. Every team knows Tottenham will have a terrible first half and a brilliant second half. So earlier in the season, when those games that we came from 1-0 down to come back and win, smaller teams been playing against us, or even bigger teams coming to Tottenham Stadium, they get one and think, okay, let's see this through till half time. Let's just keep it steady and we'll go again in the second half and see what can happen. But now, like Arsenal, like Aston Villa, like Brentford, they get one and realise we could easily get another. If we push for it, we will get another. Maybe we'll even get a third. So every single team is going for the jugular in the first half. And where we were 1-0 down was kind of salvageable. 2-0 down is a completely different story. Completely different story. And we're shooting ourselves in the foot and we're giving ourselves a mountain to climb in every single game that we play now, because every team knows we are vulnerable in the first half. And I don't know what can be done to change that. I don't think it's a tactical thing, because I don't see why Conte would persist with that. If every game we're going 2-0 down, no matter what you think of the manager, no matter what you think of any manager, he's not going to intentionally put us 2-0 down in every single game. So I can't explain it. It's a phenomenon that, to be honest, has taken a bit of a hold with Chelsea as well. I know they've conceded first in a lot of their games, but it is baffling and it's frustrating. It's frustrating not because of how bad we are in the first half, but more so because we come out in that first 15 minutes of the second half today, we were quite good. We created a lot of chances, and you're just thinking, why didn't you do that in the opening 45? Why do you have to be losing? Why do you have to need a miracle to come back into the game before you can actually perform? I wonder, is it the pressure is off? Could that be it? Is the pressure maybe
again? That is the argument. Does the opposition sit off thinking that we've got the game that we want? We're 2 or 3-0 up. We can afford to sit off. I mean,
but even not even just the pressure from the opposition team, but the pressure from themselves. Like, you're coming into that game 0-0 against Arsenal, you have that mental pressure. Maybe when you're 2-0 down, Conte says, well, you've nothing to lose now, you might as well go for it. Maybe that injects a little bit of freedom into them. But my God, if you can play like that every second half, you have that in you. Just do it. I don't know what it is. It a mental block? I don't know. It's crazy.
I mean, look, there's a number of things we can blame the ownership for on the board cracks, but that is, again, in terms of the second half versus first half, I mean, surely we have to look at the players that are out there and who's coaching them and who's managing them. Because, like I say, we talk about first half being so lackluster, almost to a degree. You can see they are tactically set up to play to some degree the way they're playing. And then second half, regardless of what you think about the opposition sitting off, we seem to have an extra step in our flow. We seem to come out brighter. We pressurise the ball. We fight for the ball more. Is it down to a majestic team talk at half time? Or is there something more sinister to this, Rich? I just don't know.
It has to be tactics, Rick, doesn't it? Because it's every game. It's not one or two games. It's every game. Slow first half, terrible first half, and then throw the bucket, the sink, and everything else.
Can I also add, though, people are right what they're saying here. Second half was better, but it is still nowhere near the level you need to beat Arsenal. I want to make that point clear. Second half was better, but not good enough to beat this current Arsenal team. Nowhere near.
No. Even if you get in at 0-0, you know, it's not enough to beat current Man U. It's not enough to beat Arsenal. Won't be enough for City. It won't be enough for Newcastle, probably 50-50 with Liverpool, and then a few others you might get away with it. But it has to 100%, as Steve Combo says there, it must be a tactical thing, because it's not one or the odd game, it's every game. And it's baffling why he does it. It's absolutely baffling. And for me, players like Sonny, they're just not enjoying that. I don't think they're enjoying that. Basuma's just not enjoying that. There's teams, players in that team that are just not enjoying those tactics. I don't
Harry
know.
As well. I know Harry had the chance into the first half. This is a guy today chasing down Jimmy Greaves' record against the team that I think he scored 15 goals in 18 against. That knows if he scores today, he not only matches that record, he can surpass it. That to me didn't look like a striker there. That looked like he was ready,
enjoying it.
They
just don't look like they're enjoying it. So you know, there's a discord there. There's a disjoint now, and that has to change. So but Conte doesn't seem to be like, you know, the lady's not for turning, as Mrs. Thatcher once said. It doesn't look like he's going to change his way.
I said the same thing to Matt, though. He changed his way at Chelsea. Is he not just going to do that because he hasn't got the squad, or because he doesn't want to? Because he wants the ball to give him what he needs in order to be able to play the way he wants to play?
Oh, I don't know. You'd have to ask Nostradamus himself, wouldn't you? The man that speaks in riddles all the time in press conferences. You know, and unless you actually asked him that directly, I don't know.
The reason I asked you that,
at Chelsea, he got pressure from the ball to do that.
Cracks, he is telling us today that is a good. He's not disappointed with the commitment and the effort from the players. I'm not saying come out and throw them under the bus, but all I'm saying is that is a North London derby at home against Arsenal, in a game we have to win, and we're setting a precedent. That is good enough. That's what worries me. That's good enough.
It's far from good enough. But you know, is that those current crop of players giving their best? Then you can't, you can't challenge that their commitment to it was 100%. If they're just not good enough, then they're just not good enough. So perhaps this is where by his own admission, he's struggled with the English language, if you like. It's being lost a little bit. So he's kind of saying the players are giving it their all, but they're just not good enough. That's what it can simply come down to. So, you know, and again, guess what? Hello, Mr. Levy, all roads leading back to you and your financial report in February, which needs a couple of knocking off the end of it. We've bought the players who are going to be good enough along with that commitment. So, you know, we go back to the top of the show, Rick, don't we? A mess. It is just a mess. And, you know, if they're not going to back Conte, then he has to go and somebody else comes in and has a go who's a bit more of a right fit for where we are. Simple as that. But, you know, I can't say it enough, Rick. Everything comes back to this board for leadership, for direction, for communicating that out as well. Their communication skills with the fans is awful, absolutely awful. And they keep wheeling Conte out who's just trying to not upset what he's currently got and just trying to talk him up a bit. But we see through that as fans. We know that wasn't good enough today. He wasn't good enough. The players aren't good enough. The commitment may have been there, but we're just woefully short, Rick. Woefully short. And you know what? Money fixes a lot of it, along with decent coaching, scouting, and just a general feel-good feel around the club. There's lots that needs to change. But I can't see it the same way as Conte today. I really can't.
No. We are going to put you guys out your misery. I say put you out your misery. We've got to look ahead to Man City to come. So I'll let you be the judge if that's putting you out your misery, if that's even inflicting more pain on you. But just to finish, we saw Conte exchanging some words with Xhaka.
Rick, you do know we beat City, don't you? You know we're beating City, don't you?
No, we're
just
not.
We're
really not.
We'll go and beat City.
The Hartman is the most positive fan I know, and even he's covered himself. He don't believe it whatsoever. And I know Darren Hartman,
which we do want to see us beat them, but there's that little bit of you that's like, no, don't beat them. No. Keep them in the race. They're the enemy of our enemy is our friend.
Oh.
So we need Man U to steam through and just win it, don't we? That's what we need now. It's not going to be us. Let them steam through and come through. Ten Hag, the man that we turned down, wasn't it?
Well, the man who wasn't good enough from what we understand, wasn't good enough on the interview. Didn't impress our board enough, Erik Ten Hag, apparently.
Well, I think we could have 10 Hag, 11 Hag, 12 Hag and 13 Hag at the club until things change. Don't matter which Hag comes in, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
With Haagen-Dazs at this rate.
Yeah, Haagen days, yeah. We might need... Well, you're not enjoying having Haagen days watching this team, I'll tell you that for sure. We saw, just to close this, Perisic and Basuma replaced Sarr and Sessegnon. I will say again, Sarr got a really good ovation, rightly so. Decent full league debut, considering all that was involved. Hill and Davis replaced Kulusevski and Longley. And I think pretty much to put you out your misery, I think that's all you're going to get from us on Arsenal. We've read you out Antonio Conte's comments. What we are going to do is we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners on audio. Take you into that break. You're going to hear from Sam Lee from The Athletic, who gives you his preview of Man City. And I can't believe you're saying this. He actually generally believes Spurs, I think, are going to beat Man City. I don't know whether he's actually watched Spurs back yet after today, but there you go. An unoptimistic City fan against Tottenham. But look, it is a massive, massive game for Tottenham. Before we do that, just a reminder that Last One on Spurs is absolutely delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN. We've made the references and the jokes all season that if you're travelling around Europe for the Champions League, and please God, we've still got a few of those games left in the bag, that you can always switch your location settings and watch whatever you're watching in the UK over and abroad overseas. You can do that by using our bonus code right now, which is nordvpn.com/audios. That's going to get you a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus a bonus gift. It is completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day back money guarantee. Again, thank you so much, guys, for your support right now. Over 1,000 plus of you watching us live, taking the therapy. We're joined by the wonderful Richard Cracknell, the superb Darren Hartman, and the brilliant Matty Hayes, who've tried to be your therapists for this evening, as we now even need them to be even better at their jobs because they've got to try and preview Man City and what's to come. Darren, let's start with you. Let's pick the most positive man I know in the world, bless him, to try and look ahead to City to come. Look, we've seen over the weekend Newcastle extend their lead over Tottenham. Now we're 5 off them. You'd arguably say they are the team to chase down, as King Hollow refers to there. But City also aren't in the greatest run of form at the moment. Failed to register a shot on target against Southampton in the Carabao Cup exit, and also beaten by Manchester United. 2 goals in a very quick turnaround by Erik Ten Hag's men. Do you have any optimism, Hartman, going there? We've got a good record at City in the most recent years, but based on how Spurs are playing at the moment, honestly, how do you feel about that one, Hartman?
I'm always going to find a bit of optimism. You know that. I'm always going to have to. City are playing badly right now. That's one thing we have to look at. They are shocking. So with them being shocking, it gives us a chance. Also, we're living rent-free in their head right now. We know it winds Pep up. We are the team that beat them. We are the team that seem to get a result when they're flying. We seem to be able to beat them. But that's normally when we're playing at our best. This is a game where we know what our first half's going to be like. For me, it's whether or not City frustrate themselves in the first half. If they do what they've been doing recently, they will frustrate themselves in their first half. They won't get the ball to Haaland. I don't know if you watch him recently. They seem to not want to pass to him. It's a really weird thing that's happening up front. He's making runs and they're not giving it to him. And it's really weird to watch. If they go with that and we can hang in there in the first half, there is an opportunity to beat them. There really is. Because you know what happens, gentlemen? We always do this. The minute we highlight how bad Son's playing, City turns up and he shows up. And I'm hoping that we get that. I hope that he turns up, the City game comes, he gives us what we've been crying for, and we nick a 1-0. So you know what? I'm going to stick this very long, broad neck. I'm going to stick it on the line, and I'm getting a 1-0 Spurs win. Because I've got to be positive after today. I've got to try my best.
That's what we love you for, Dal. We love you. We do know, listen, Dal is away on business on Thursday, bless him. He pulled that one out well, didn't he? Bless him.
Listen, I'm telling you now, I'm in Wales. Even you send me that link. If we lose, I'll come and go, I'm sorry, it's all my fault.
Dal, for your own mental health, I'm not going to send you a link for Thursday for your own sanity. It's going to take him a while to get over this one, bless him. The wonderful Darren Hartman. Wonderful Hartman. Love having him on a regular on Last One on Spurs. Matty, coming around to you. Look, a lot of people look at this game, Matty, and think to themselves, we want City to beat us because we want to stop Arsenal winning the league. But I don't know whether now you look at the way City are playing and think you've got more chance in Newcastle United, giving Arsenal a rival challenge at the moment. So how do we approach the one for you, Matt? Is this game winnable against City? Bearing in mind what we did to them last season, we're arguably in the form of their life, and they're nowhere near that at the moment. What do you think, Matt?
To be honest, I think any fan saying that we want to lose this game is just preparing themselves. To be honest, you know, if it was last day of the season and we were fighting for top four and City were fighting Arsenal for the title, I want to beat them. I care more about this club succeeding than I do about Arsenal failing. It's going to be terrible to see them win the league. It's going to be terrible if we do, to see them extend their lead if we do beat City. But I still want to beat City. Do I think we're going to beat City? Not a chance. I hate to bring the level down a little bit after Darren's eternal positivity. But yeah, look, we do go there. We do win. What's helped us a lot against City in the last couple of years is that we've found a way to just really force them out wide and force them to put crosses into the box when it was Gabriel Jesus up there or when it was Phil Foden as a false nine or Mahrez or De Bruyne, whoever it was. It's Haaland. If we're going to force them to put crosses in the box, they're going to score. If we allow them space centrally, they're going to score. I wish I could offer more positivity, and I wish I could say that I can see us pulling something off. I wish I could genuinely say that, but I don't. City the reaction is going to come eventually, and they're going to be looking at us with the defeat we had today, with the disconnect in our team and our fan base in the whole way through this football club, and they're going to see this as an opportunity, playing us twice in the next couple of weeks to put some pressure back on Arsenal. And yeah, I'm not looking forward to Thursday.
Cracks, you're back with me for this one. I think you are back with me for this one. I don't know whether you didn't get the annual leave slip off for this one, unfortunately, Cracks, bless you. It's going to be a really, really difficult evening. I'm going to be able to say that. We are a shadow of ourselves to the team that went there last season and won. And just the whole mood around the club. Look, we are going to expect now for the next few days, it is going to be fairly low. We're going to be back with you, of course, for a number of different shows throughout this week, as we always are throughout January. But anything, Cracks, that gives you the optimism that we can do something on Thursday, given the current status of where we are, this squad, this manager, what we're going for at the moment, supporters?
Well, we had an awful performance against Villa, didn't we? And then we went to Palace thinking to ourselves, oh man, we are going to get done here. They're going to be in our face. And then we went and done what we'd done. So I don't know. Maybe they get into training tomorrow morning, have a right good sort out amongst themselves, a bit of a tear up, a bit of a clear the air, and then go there with a renewed optimism. So which Tottenham's turning up, which City's turning up, because it's such a difficult one to call. You know, I'm with Matt. If us going there and winning, fantastic, you know, because that's not going to hand Arsenal the title, not at all. There's plenty more games than just that one. You don't win or lose titles off of one game and what a rival's doing somewhere else and da-da-da-da-da-da. So, you can forget that. And even if us winning now on Thursday meant that we got back into the Champions League but it handed them the title, I'd still want us to win it, because like you must always support your own team before, you know, wishing something else on another team. So I don't know, Rick. Last time I said we was going to get absolutely spanked by Palace. So yeah, we're going to get absolutely spanked by City. There you go. I think, in fact, have a look at this. Look, I've got this beautiful presentation plate here. Look, pick one of these plates. Which one of those we're going to have our arses served up to us on Thursday night by City? There you go. So, and I'm hoping that has the same effect as what happened at Palace when I said Palace were going to do the same.
Don't ever
Merry
say we
Christmas.
Don't ever say we don't leave the show on a positive. My God. Can I just say, these wonderful men you see here, they've nearly given us 2 hours of their time. Cracks, thank you so much, mate. We're looking forward to having you back with us on Thursday. We're going to give us a prediction based on that, Cracks, or not? Going to leave a prediction out? We're going to say on the back of that?
On Thursday for the win or not?
Well, prediction, what are you going to go for?
Oh, I don't know. 3-0 City. I'm trying this reverse psychology thing again, like I did with Palace.
I won't even ask you what that leads if it does to become that result, but hopefully the reverse psychology works. Cracks, thank you so much, mate. Love to always have you back on Last Word on Spurs.
Thank you.
Looking forward to having you back on Thursday. I don't know what's going to be coming on Thursday. Matt, loved having you on, mate. Thank you so much for all your time. I know it's difficult. Social media is not going to be a happy place in these next few days. Spurs need to act, and massively fast, Matt. I didn't actually catch your prediction, Matt. Is that because you didn't want to give me one, or because I didn't ask you?
God, you didn't catch it because I left it out intentionally. But
I bet you did.
God, I think. Oh God, my prediction. I'm going to give two. One is that we'll all be better off not on Twitter on Thursday evening. And despite what I said, despite how confident I am that City are going to beat us, I've only ever predicted a defeat for Tottenham once, and that was in one of those games against Chelsea last January. So I'm going to say 2-1 Spurs because I'm an absolute idiot and I love this club for some reason.
Matt, we love you too, mate. Thank you so much. Loved having you back on Last One on Spurs tonight. As Richard says there, we picked the room right tonight. I think we always do. We've got wonderful guests that come on Last One on Spurs. A lot of our regulars out here. Thank you so much, guys, for all your time. And the Hartman has been in that car for nearly 2 hours. And for his own sake and for his own wheels on there, we've got to let this man go. He's got
anything for Last Word on Spurs. You know, mate, I'm here always.
You know, we love you, Dow.
Hartman's got to have the RAC out. He's got to have a jump start now. He's been running his phone off the little PowerPoint at the front of the car. It used to be a cigarette lighter, and he's had the interior light on. He's going to go to start his car a bit later. Flat, absolutely flat. Look.
Listen, I've got the power's cracked. Don't you worry. If not, I'm going to run down the high road. I'll get my shorts and I'm running.
I have to say, mate, listen, you give so much to this show, mate. Thank you so much. Never easy. Always a pleasure to have you on, mate. We look forward to having you back with us very, very soon. I think you're back on for some of the Milan games. I bet you can't wait.
Oh, listen, I can't wait.
I know you can't wait.
I'm ready.
And just as some people are asking, Georgie, bless him, I know we've got other messages here about Colin, also the shit quiz. Please, God, we will have a shit quiz once our team starts showing up, because poor Richard at the moment, I mean, asked him to draft a shit quiz on the back of watching that today. Richard, I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I can draft one up, can't I? I've got so many that have been drafted, and you go, well, if we get a good result, we'll finish it. I've got reams of them. The quizzes that never was. I could start my own podcast with them, couldn't I?
Oh God, we could have a podcast for shit quizzes the way the show's going this season. I tell you, an hour and a half shit quizzes to make up for the results. But
I do have to say, Rick, listen, like, you know, we've had a spanking a day. It's been horrible, but we've had loads and loads of like sort of nice comments and people like in getting something from us, gathering and giving our opinions. And you know, we do get people that message us on Twitter and social media. Oh, you said this and I don't like you said that. And you know, like, you shouldn't care too much for the opinion of strangers. Like, worry about what your family and loved ones and good friends think of you, and then everything else is just white noise. But generally, overall, again, it's one of those 85-90% of the people get what we're trying to do here, and you know, make nice comments and are happy for us to do it. So thank you to them. And the other 10%, well, maybe there's a show somewhere else for you, and you know, no one forces you to watch. So God bless you.
No, listen, thank you so much again to the audience. Over 1,000 plus of you watching us live. I know it's never easy on the back of a defeat against Arsenal. Never easy. But listen, from the wonderful Richard Cracknell, from the superb Darren Hartman, from the brilliant Matty Hayes, guys, please keep safe, keep well. We're back with you very soon. And as always, keep the faith. Come on, you Spurs.